Good evening and welcome to Voice of the Bay on Bay TV channel 260. My name is Nobe Sutiejana and tonight we have a special guest, the Minister of Human Settlements, Lindiwe Sisulu. As we promised today, we have a special guest, the Minister of Human Settlements, Minister Lindiwe Sisulu, who will be talking to us about the works of her office. Now, Mora Mama Munjan.
I'm okay, thanks. And how are you?
I'm very good. The Housing Act provides the facilitation of sustainable housing development. Then how do you define adequate house? Because with the recent ratification projects, people have been complaining about the small sizes of the houses.
Yes. You know, the term adequate is from the Constitution. It says that the government will be responsible to provide adequate housing on a progressive scale, depending on the amount of money that government has. Now, adequate does not talk about adequate per person. It is a common description of what we will provide the people of South Africa. So, for instance, we have now provided more than 20 million people with housing opportunities. Now that is what we define as more than adequate, but we are still continuing. So adequate for people to have access to housing, but not adequate for you as a small person, providing you with the size of a toilet and somebody else with a bigger house. No, we have a standard house. It's governed by our laws, which are codified and available for all to see. We are now on a policy called the BNG. It specifies very clearly that a house is a 40 square meter house. It has 2 bedrooms, a bathroom, which has a toilet and a bath in it, which has a geyser, and a separate kitchen and lounge. That is a basic house. And if that is too small, then we would advise people to use the opportunity of the title deeds to extend their houses, because they actually need to add value to their houses, because that is what you do with property, you add value to property. But that is the basic that government can give to any individual, and that is what we've worked out is adequate. But that's not the definition of adequate as intended in the Constitution. It is enough houses for the people of South Africa. So we are giving houses to people who are too poor to buy houses, or too poor to go to the bank, or too poor to afford them, or too old to build them themselves. We're encouraging younger people to come to the table, because we have a program for them where they can build their own houses. And when they build their own houses, the product is much better, it is much bigger, and so they can actually have parties in a bigger house or do whatever it is. But there are a number of variables of houses that are possible within what we provide for the subsidy.
Okay, now your department took over the housing function in this metro.
Yes, we did.
What was the problem?
We were requested by the council. They actually called us and we came over, and they explained what their problem was and asked us please to take over the responsibility, because as far as their assessment went, the housing responsibility had fallen apart. Number one, there were a lot of protests in Woma, and every television station and media house covered them very extensively, many other protests everywhere else, but the most notable one, which was there every day, was in Woma. The construction industry was very angry because of the slow payments and etc. And there were accusations from the community of a lot of corruption in the municipality, and there was general discontent. It was felt that the city needed some bailing out. Now, in terms of our laws, they are allowed to call on us to come and rescue them, and we did rescue them. And I can say without batting an eyelid that I haven't come across disgruntlement now. The people of Woma are slowly settling in, and very soon it will be a decent, completely decent and changed place. We've now completed 185 houses there, and with the cooperation of the people of Woma, we've been to all the places that were unhappy to try and see how we can sort out the problem of the cause of their unhappiness. We have called in a forensic audit company to see where there was corruption. They have completed their work and they've handed it over to us. We're studying it, and we will be able to indicate what we're doing with the results. Some of the corrupt activities were reported by the Metro itself to the police, and there are police cases that are ongoing about some of these matters. But generally, we've brought on track most of those things that had gone unwillingly, and we were unable to deliver on the scale that we should have delivered. One of the problems we had is the rectification problem. The rectification problem was now taking up 50% of the budget allocated for housing. So which means that 50% of the people who should have been benefiting annually were still in informal settlements waiting to benefit while we were sorting out rectification. And most of the rectification we were sorting out was caused by the private sector building shoddy houses for our people. And we came to a decision that we cannot tolerate this, that the private sector needs to be called upon to come and rectify or remedy the work that they had done. And this is what we're doing now. Those houses that were built by us ourselves and that we are responsible for, we've been busy remedying those. But those that are built by the private sector has to take responsibility and make sure that they rebuild them. What has happened now is that the money that we used to spend on rectification, we're able to build more houses. We've now built twice as much as we built the year in which we came in. And the projection is that we will build 5 times more in the outer year of 2017, 2018 than when we came in here, which means more people have access to housing as opposed to us remedying the work that was shoddily done by the private sector. The private sector must come back and ensure that they can restore their own integrity and rectify those houses.
Okay. Is your office going to be involved even after the local government elections?
Well, we have signed a memorandum of understanding between ourselves as a first sphere of government and the province and the Nelson Mandela Bay Metro. And that is covering what we call the 5-year period in which I am in office and the provincial administration is in office. So should the next administration require our services, the memorandum of understanding will hold. And my suggestion is that they take time to come out of this relationship if they would want to, because otherwise we would be back to where we were. They would need to allow a continuation of the processes we've put in place. And we've put in place very good processes. We've cleaned up the beneficiary list process, which was a total mess. We've been able to clean up the database for people who are in the construction industry. We've been able to empower quite a lot of SMMEs who are currently building houses. And I think it's a very good, we've made significant progress. And anybody who comes in would benefit from keeping it in place.
Okay, now talking about SMMEs, how is the relationship between your office and the SMMEs?
You want us to hug in public?
Is it like, how do you go about allocating a certain project to SMMEs?
Okay, fine. No, ministers' offices are not responsible for procurement or allocation. But what we did when we came in, understanding that we needed to empower our people to take responsibility for building their own houses and assisting us in building houses, was to invite registered SMMEs. We met them at the boardwalk. We had a raucously wonderful time with them. And we brought in our agency called the NHBRC to assist them to understand how they can build and teach them building skills. And while they were in the process of being assisted in getting building skills, we gave them 5 houses each to build. And we will gauge on the houses that they build whether or not they are suitable to upscale to the second level. In housing, we use a scale of, a CIBD scale of, to give the number of houses. So if you're a starter, you barely get 2 houses, but we had increased them to ensure that while they're building, they can also be earning an income. And we wanted to empower women. And when we finished that meeting, we had, we were on very happy terms with the SMMEs. They felt empowered. But of course, every process has its hiccups. We did have some hiccups, which we have now straightened out. And I am certain that we will have one of the most empowered SMMEs in this metro.
Okay. Now, in terms, Minister, with the rapid growth of urbanization in South Africa, the demand of land, infrastructure,
Yes.
how is the department dealing with that issue?
Well, we do have a shortage of land generally all over the country, and particularly land that is close to places of economic activity, because the land that we have is far from economic opportunities, and the amount of money that is spent as calculated by Statistics South Africa on transport is almost 70% of the salary of any particular individual on average. So we are trying to acquire land. We have an entity called HDA, Housing Development Agency, whose responsibility it is to acquire land, buy land, and we're buying land. Some land has been sold to us, and we're very happy. We're buying it and doing the necessary surveys to ensure that it is suitable for housing purposes. And we will be building there. It's called a greenfield because there has not been any use of that place. And we will be building there in the near future. We have a number of catalytic projects that we will be embarking on, and some of them will be in this metro, and it will be on land that we have bought.
Okay, you probably talked about this before. The issue of, your department said that it will not prioritize anyone who is younger than 40 to receive a house. So, like,
Sutu, you are working. You come and join us on weekends, and we will teach you how you can provide yourself with a house. We'll give you a service site, and we will help you. We will give you a subsidy. There is a subsidy. And the issue of under 14 was sensationalized, completely out of proportion. The law indicates that the state is responsible for providing support and help to all indigent people. Indigent is defined as people who are elderly, people who are in any way in need of state assistance, like child-headed households, or people who are living with disabilities, etc. They're very clearly defined, and this is our priority, because these are elderly people who should, in any common courtesy and in any common culture, would have been prioritized. These are the people we want to prioritize. And until we've completed all people who qualify, it would not be possible for us to be prioritizing you. Because we would like you to empower yourself. I think that an empowered society is much better advantage than one that is dependent on the government. What we provide you with is land, service land. What we provide you with is the necessary subsidy for you to buy the building material and get somebody to come and build for you. When you're done with that, you have a much better product than we are able to provide, because you can design your own house, you're responsible for it, and if you have additional resources yourself, you are able to put up a much better product. And if you invest in property, anybody will tell you that's the best investment you can have. So we are also empowering you to understand how you can invest for your future. We're empowering you to understand how you can do it yourself. When you've got a burst pipe, you are able to assist yourself out of that, and you are a much more independent person because you're able. And the 40-year-olds have a program that we've put for them, and there is a subsidy for them. And we're not cutting them out because we don't like them. We love them very much. We worked very hard to give them freedom so that they live a better life. And I am certain that when they are ready to come and build with us, they will find that it would be much better for them to do it themselves.
Okay, now
with us.
Yeah. Lastly, Minister, yourself and the Executive Mayor yesterday, you were handing out title deeds in Uteneg.
Yes.
So were those title deeds for people who did not have permission to stay on those houses? Or?
No. That was just a sample because the mayor had so many other engagements and all he could afford was to be there for a particular period of time. So he was there and he gave out about 20 as an example of what is possible. The totality of the title deeds that would have gone to Uteneg is probably about 600 or so in that figure. So we will be giving out title deeds, regularly until we're done with them. Now, a title deed is the last phase of building a house. So by the time you've built a house and you've verified that the person who is in the house is indeed the owner of that house, is indeed the beneficiary, then we are able to sign off and give the title deeds. So we left this to the end because we were rushing to make sure that we can build as many houses as possible while the verification processes have been ongoing. We now have something like 900 title deeds that we're giving out on a regular basis. So if you see us walking about, you can be quite sure that we're giving title deeds as we go on a door-to-door, or we call people to halls if their numbers are too big, and we give them title deeds, because this is an indication that they actually do own the house. But the people we're giving house title deeds to yesterday were owners of those houses, but this is a legal instrument that shows that they actually do own the house. And it's a final stage, and it was a very happy event. There were very tearful elderly people there who explained to us that they had been forcefully removed from their houses, and their houses bulldozed by the apartheid state, and now they have a house with a title deed and nobody can take it away from them. It was a joyful occasion and I enjoyed it.
Okay, thank you very much, Minister.
My pleasure.
And that was all we had for you tonight. Do make sure you watch Voice of the Bay with Upra Pesi. But from myself, Nobesutu Ejana, in the words of Upra Pesi, adios amigos.